what are you going to unblock for them? If someone read all your books, listen to your podcast, listen to today's podcast, what are they going to unblock that's been tripping them up, keeping them behind or holding them back?
I think they would have clarity on what actions were required to get what they wanted. And then at that point, they would only have to just think like, why am I not doing it? Which is a separate conversation. But there's a lot of confusion, I would say, around like, what are the things that are required in order to create a business, in order to create an income? I would say that I'm an objectivist. And so I just look at what are the things that are observable. And I think a lot of time people spend inside their heads trying to think about manifesting and energy and all of this stuff when it's like, we got to let people know about the stuff we have. We got to have something to sell, and we got to make sure that what we're charging costs less than it costs to deliver it. And we try and do that as many times as we can. And so each of those pieces obviously has frameworks behind them, but they're all tied to one thing, which is just what actions are required. And that's been the single pervasive frame in my life that has made navigating reality significantly easier for me, because I was very confused coming up and I was like, I don't know what any of this is. And I read all these self-help books and I felt more confused after the 10th book than I did in the first book. And then it was just like, okay, what do I have to do? And then that is kind of what has started this journey for me.
What's that number one misconception you hear when people are thinking about building a business, making money, changing their financial situation? What's the number one thing you hear and you go, that's the issue?
I think they conflate sequence is probably the first and biggest thing, because a lot of people who are wanting to make money believe that the making money comes from investing, and investing is the last thing you do, not the first thing you do. And so one of the things is they'll look at people who are at the end of their careers and say, okay, well, these guys are making all these, these bets, right? If I just bought this meme coin, or I just bought Bitcoin in 2013, I'd be super rich. But it actually doesn't take into consideration what a decision-making process like that would create, which is if you took a swing at every type of Bitcoin, because you can't just say, I would only pick this one. You'd have to say, I'd pick every single super long shot. It's like, we probably would have lost on 99 of the other bets. And so it's like, we have to take it in aggregate. And so I would say making active income cool again, rather than the passive bet and really just gambling, is probably the first thing that people mess up, is that they somehow think that working or active income is not scalable, when in reality, the people who have the most money typically have tremendously high incomes. And it's because of the excess of cash flow from that income are they able now to make big swings with riskier bets that sometimes pay off and sometimes don't. But you can't take those swings unless you have more cash flow that's coming in from the things you do every day.
You know what? No one's ever said it that well, like from everyone I've spoken to. And I'm so glad you pointed it out, because I completely agree. I have so many friends who, when they saw the rise of crypto or whatever it was, jumped in with a large sum of their life savings because they heard of a friend of a friend of a friend who'd made a killing, put it all in there. A week later, it dropped by like 10K. They pulled it all out. The next week it went up double, and it was just a mess. And so many of them lost like 10, 20, 30, 40,000 pounds, dollars. And it's all because you're thinking that's the way to get there.
Right.
And it's cooler and it's smarter and like you're a genius.
Yeah, right.
And you're right. Actually, everyone I know that's made amazing money on any of that already had tons of money. And it was play money for them.
Yeah.
So it just changed into this. So what's happening there? Why is it that we've been led down this thought process? And how do we get out of it?
I mean, I think it's fundamentally the something for nothing fallacy of like, how can I get rich quick? How can I do it really easily? And basically, the more it feels like luck is usually where you should have your first red flag. I have a belief that if you control all the variables, then you can predict the outcome. Now, we don't always control all the variables in any given situation, but the greater number of variables we control, the greater influence we have over the outcome. And if you're getting into something like this and you're like, I actually don't even know what the variables are, then it's like you are 100% gambling. And so this is your life savings. Would you put it on black at the casino? Probably not. This is really not that different than that. Except at the casino, you have no nods at least. Right here, it's like you have no idea. And typically by the time, especially Gen Pop, kind of retail investors find out about something, it is the peak and it is too late. And so you have to be at the very beginning of these if you want to be speculative, which I wholeheartedly am not a big fan of speculative investments in general, because it's basically the greater fool theory, which is what they call it in the investment world, which is just like, we just keep selling to the greater and greater fool until sometimes somebody is the greatest fool of all and then it drops, right? And so I prefer to think about, instead of thinking of investments and active income, I think of it just money per unit of time. And that kind of takes out this binary, or what I would consider a false binary of active and passive, and think, well, and I feel like I can prove this pretty clearly, which is we live in time and we collect money in that period of time. And so fundamentally, all we want to do if we want to increase our income is just think, what are we earning per unit? And this is where, again, bad piece of advice is like, never sell your time. It's like, okay, well, if someone gave you $1 billion for an hour, would you not sell that? I would. Right? And so it's a question of how much is your time worth? And then that creates a much more actionable decision-making framework of, is this worth it or not? And to ladder up to the active versus passive, it's how active is it versus how passive is it? And it's my belief that nothing is passive, because there's always going to be a certain amount of, if you're doing it right, let's say if you made one passive investment, if you're doing it the right way, you probably should have looked at 100 deals, and all of that took time. And all of that takes diligence. And then after doing all this analysis, then you decide to make this investment. And so to say that it's passive, it's like it doesn't take into account all of the research that goes into ahead of time, which is absolutely still work. Now, after the investment, sure, but there's still time that you're trading. By first breaking that idea of like, in order for me to get rich, it must be something that I don't trade my time for, I think is like big myth number one. So if we assume that, then we say, okay, I have to trade my time for money because money comes in over time. What are the things that I can trade my time for that will get me more than I'm currently getting, which is a much more solvable problem that also is significantly less risky. And so especially when you're trading time, we have some. And so we really just risk the time to be like, I don't want to sell, I'm not a slave. It's like, calm down. It's a voluntary exchange. And here's the thing is, if you don't think the price is worth it, then don't make the trade. And that's one of the beauties of capitalism, is it's two parties both saying they'll be better off. And so fundamentally, I would say the focus of the content, the stuff that I put out is, how can I equip people with the skills so that when they trade that time, they get more for it, and then continue to trade up and up and up for the rest of their careers.
Yeah, I mean, that's actually such counterintuitive advice to what I feel has been spreading on the internet for the last 2 decades of every conversation's around passive income.
Yeah.
I feel like every one of my friends is addicted to figuring out how they can make passive income. Oh. And those are the same people that are not making any more money than they already were. Yeah. But it's this addiction and obsession with, if I figure this out, then I can quit my day job and whatever it may be.
Yeah, and I've had influence. So my neighbor is he owns Panda Express. And so last time I checked, they did $3.7 billion in revenue, and they have about a 27% net margin. So he took home $935 million in personal income, not investment, income. And so people see his investment portfolio, which is impressive, as you can imagine, he's been doing it for 45 years. And so that starts to add up, right? But the thing is he can only take these kind of bigger swings or bigger bets because he has this very regular cash flow that he spent 45 years building. And I would say that what's interesting is that you can build something very big in about 5 to 7 years. And the problem is that I think most people spend that same 5 to 7 years reliving the same 30 days over and over again, jumping from thing to thing to thing, and never actually getting the root set so that they can pay down their ignorance tax of not knowing enough. Basically, I would say there's 5 stages that most newer entrepreneurs or people who want to pursue income go through. So the first is what I call uninformed optimism. So your friend tells you about this thing they made 10 grand on, and you're like, that sounds amazing. You're uninformed, but you're optimistic, right? And so then you get into it, and then all of a sudden you get to informed pessimism. So you get in and then you put your money in and then it drops and you're like, wow, this sucks. And then, people are like, buy the dip. And so you're like, okay, I'm gonna put more money in. And so then you get to kind of stage 3, which is the valley of despair, where you're like, oh my God, I've lost so much money. I have no idea what's going on right now. And at stage 3, there's kind of a fork. And so either people then go, well, my other friend told me about this other thing, and they jump back to step 1 and go to uninformed optimism, and then they funnel through that loop over and over again. Now, to break through that dip, you have to basically get to stage 4, which is informed optimism. So now you understand the rules of the game, you understand the variables at play, and it's not as good as you thought it was, but you at least get it. And so from there, then you can get to achievement, which is the 5th step. But the thing is that you have to stay in that 3rd painful place, because staying in the pain is what gives you the catalyst to learn how to get out of pain. And so rather than trying to pull your parachute, it's like, I have to trudge through this so that it forces me to learn the individual skills, the individual variables that affect this outcome. And that means I might have to take 20 more lashings to finally get it. And then at that point, it starts to tick up. Yeah. And then that's when you start to become more of an expert, more of a master at something.
Yeah, and if you don't sit in that pain, you're going to keep repeating that cycle with something new. So it was crypto, then it was NFTs, then it was whatever else, just keeps going round and round and round. Is that system in this new book?
So this is probably for one chunk above that.
Okay, got it. No, because I love the way you break down the journey that we go through in our mind, and you do that with multiple things, because I think we don't even see it.
No.
Like that pattern you just explained is a pattern you could live for 3 decades. You've just saved people 3 decades of pain by pointing it out and saying, well, this is what you're doing, and here's how to shift that. And I think people make the mistake where we go, I don't have time to learn.
Right.
So I'm going to learn from someone who makes me feel like I can learn it in an hour.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to do it, which still is uninformed optimism. So how do we learn? Where do we go? How do you build that time to say, how many hours do I need to even learn about this? I'm going to put money in it. How would you calculate that? If someone was like, I'm going to put in $1,000, I'm going to put in a $10,000. How much time should they put to value that amount of money?
So great question. I would reframe the premise, which would be we'd still be operating under this as I'm going to put money into something. And so I would reject the original premise and say, well, if you want to get really good at something, then why don't we start with skills that generate income? And so if we follow kind of the 3 elements of a business at its most basic form, is you have some element of promotion. So we got to let people know about our stuff. The second element is we got to have a way to convert them. So we have to be able to sell, some sort of exchange mechanism. And then finally we have to deliver, right? So attract, convert, deliver. Very easy. Well, easy to say, hard to do, right? Within each of those things, it's like, okay, well, how do I let people know about my stuff? Or even before that, what stuff do I sell, right? And so that's where I like to think about it as people try to think, man, there's so many people, and try to boil the ocean. Like it's impossible to try and think, what business could I possibly start? Because you're trying to address the world. When it's much easier to say, what are the problems that exist in my life? And I kind of think about it as the 3 Ps. Like most businesses come out of a passion, so something that you're just inherently interested in. They come out of a profession. So you currently exchange, right now you have a job, whatever it is, and you get paid, maybe not as much as you want, but you do get paid for exchanging some sort of value with the business. And the third is P, which is pain. Right, so there's some deep pain that sometimes you went through. So maybe it's a mom who had to figure out how to create non-allergenic food for their kids, right? It'd be something as small as that. And so from those 3 kind of buckets is, I think, the best starting point for most people who want to start making an income. It's like, okay, well, if you're inherently interested in this topic, it's like, can we let people know about stuff around that topic? Can we create solutions around that stuff? Can we create services, which is where I prefer most people start, which, to be fair, in the United States, 78% of businesses are service-based businesses. And I think it's because they're the easiest to start. You just trade time for money. Very low risk, right? You either get richer or you don't, but like your base is 0. When you have a superior money model, it gives you padding to be bad at everything else. Because you fundamentally make more money per customer than anyone else does in your space, which means your advertising doesn't have to be as good. You don't have to be as good at sales. The offer itself might not necessarily be as good, but when you sequence these things together properly the right way, then you can unlock scale in the business. People don't really give up on their dreams. They see what it takes to get their dreams and then decide it's too expensive. I think that if we make who we become the goal rather than the thing that we achieve, instead of winning once a decade, we can win every day.
Do you want healthy, great-looking skin without spending a ton of time on it? If you answered yes, and let's be honest, who wouldn't? Dove Men Plus Care Body and Face Scrub is your ultimate hack for effortless skincare. When I say hack, I mean it. This scrub does it all. Exfoliates, cleanses, and moisturizes all in one simple step. No extra steps, no hassle, just better-looking skin made easy. Plus, it's made with natural essential oils. It's vegan and free from parabens and sulfates. Designed specifically for men's skin, so it does exactly what you need it to. The best part? It's easy. Your skin will look better, feel better, and it won't take up more than a moment of your day. Just hack your grooming routine and add the Dove Men Plus Care Scrub into your shower. Have you seen any metrics in success rates between passion, profession, and pain?
No, I haven't. I really want to know now.
Really fascinating. The reason why I ask it is because I've been thinking about this for so long, and I want to go through each of those because I think it's really sound advice. I used to really believe that everyone should try to do what they love and love what they do.
Yeah.
And I've changed my mind about that. And I used to believe it very strongly, probably like 10 years ago, only to then realize that works great for the 1 to 10%.
Yeah.
But for the majority of people, that's going to be really, really hard. And recently I was giving the Princeton commencement speech for their graduation. Amazing. And I was thinking about it a lot before I gave that speech, because I was like, wait a minute, these are like the most talented, smartest people in the country who have everything at their disposal. And I know that even some of these people may not get a job they love, or may never ever build something they love. But guess what? Everyone needs money to survive. Yeah. So the question is, and I want to hear your take on it, and I'll reflect back, is should you do what you love for money and love what you do?
I think this is big myth number 2. So if we start with, passive versus active is big problem number 1. Number 2 is follow your passion. I think the reason that this is so espoused, I'll start where I think the idea comes from and then kind of break down from there. I think it's because most of those commitment speeches are billionaires or very successful people, and they say follow your passion. But if we think through, what other advice could they give that would be socially acceptable? They can't say, I got lucky. They can't say, I worked, super hard, because people were like, sure, and so then it's like, okay, well, they're never going to get attacked for saying follow your passion. But the problem with that is it also assumes that your passion or your interest will never change. Mm-hmm. And I mean, anybody who's listening to this, just think about what you were really interested in 10 years ago. It's probably different than it is now. And if you extrapolate that another 10 years, it'll probably be different again. And so if we can think about the hypothetical extreme of a really successful person as someone who sticks with the same thing for an extended period of time, which is something that I believe, because you learn all the lessons you possibly can in a very narrow field, right? And that you basically try and make as many mistakes as you can. And if you basically, pay off all the ignorance debt you can, it's like you end up just succeeding by default if you just fail every other way. Yeah. But if you try and do too many things, you never actually get to push the road all the way, trudge through the mud and get there, because you're only learning 1 or 2 mistakes in many fields and not many in one. Yeah. And so the follow your passion issue is that, number 1, the passions will change. Number 2 is that sometimes you're passionate about things that people don't value. And the thing is there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that it will be very hard to make an income that way. Mm-hmm. The third thing is that I think that it creates an emotionality around business or income, which is that the moment it doesn't feel good, that you believe the myth that you should stop. When I think that
so good.
If you and I were to talk about the business side of anything, there are elements that I love and there are elements that I hate. And I see them as both required. I would love to maximize one versus the other, but it's just the cost of doing business, literally. But I try to reframe that pain that comes from doing the things that I don't want to do the things that I do want to do, as the price tag required to become the person that I want to become. And so if we think about the traits of any person, so it's like, if I want to be patient, then I can't expect things to happen faster, right? Like if we were to go to the end of our lives and say, hey, I want these character traits. It's like, well, if you had to play a character in a video game and make them that way, it's like, well, what would you have to put them through in order to get those traits? It's like, well, if you want patience, then you're not going to get things quickly. If you want to have endurance, it's like you have to be able to tolerate suffering, right? If you want to be wise, it's like you're going to have to get burned, and you're going to have to learn the value of judgment. And sometimes that means you're going to get betrayed in order to learn that pattern. And so it's like we lament the price tag for the things that we want. And I think that, at least for me, my ultimate long-term goal is just to become the person that the best version of me, right? And I think that in order for that to happen, I will have to go through pain. And so the follow your passion, moniker also creates this emotionality that gets you to quit when you really are on the right path. And this is just part of it. And so I think those are probably the big 3 that I think about when it comes to why follow your passion doesn't serve most people. And the other, I would say bonus 4th, might be that you might be really good at something, and people are very willing to exchange money for that thing. And it doesn't mean that you actually have to do the thing that you work on, that you make money on, all the hours of the day, right? Like you can work for 20 or 30 hours a week and then have the other 120 to do whatever you want, 130 to do whatever you want. And that's, not a bad thing, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's the reason I asked it. And I think even the advice, follow your passion, doesn't mean focus on your passion, right? Like there's this confusion with time. So even when I think about it in my life, when I left the monastery and went to work as a consultant because I needed to pay the bills, again, a very real decision, because I was 25 years old living in my loft room in my parents' house again, and that couldn't last very long. When I went into that work, I was teaching meditation by lunch. Like in my lunch breaks in the evenings, I would teach meditation to my colleagues. There was no demand for it. 2 people would show up. 2013, this was, meditation and mindfulness were not this global movement. And I was just enjoying it because I was following my passion. But I was making money by being a consultant, which was trading my time for money.
Mm-hmm.
As I followed that passion more, I got more confidence in it. The market changed. We're in a very different landscape today, 12 years on, for there being business opportunities in wellness and health that didn't exist 12 years ago. And so now following my passion for all of that time meant there was a time when I could focus on it.
Mm-hmm.
But let's say I had another passion that wasn't monetizable, people weren't interested in it at all. I could follow it for years and bring it into my work and bring it into my life, and it would be beautiful and I'd be more fulfilled.
Yeah.
But it didn't need to be my thing,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so I really, really like that advice. And it's something that I almost want to propagate so hard right now, because I feel just responsible that for so long we've been telling people to, just do what you love and chase what you love. And it's like, yeah, in your private time and personal time, you should. But don't think that has to be the thing you make money from, especially if you have a really obscure gift.
I 100% agree. I mean, I'm a utilitarian. I tend to be I've probably edged too much on pragmatic. And maybe that's just the immigrant upbringing of just like, how are you going to pay your bills? That's all anyone cared about.
Well, the funny thing is I had that too.
Yeah, no, for sure.
My parents are immigrants too, but I think that I think I got really lucky to figure out what I loved really early.
Yeah.
And I got really lucky that I got to get really good at it really early.
I had this mentor really early on in my career who said, never do what you love, because then it becomes work.
Mm.
And so just a completely counter take. And this guy was a guy who just had he had 3 or 4 stores that he ran, and he retired at age 28. And not as a gazillionaire. I think he made something in the neighborhood of probably like $30,000, $40,000 a month, take home. And for 20 years, he did nothing besides collect his money once a month, and then he played golf 5 days a week, and he got to hang out and basically be there for the entirety of his kids, and he loved that. And that he accomplished. He used to tell me, he's like, I slayed the dragon of life. And so what's interesting is that now that his girls are out of the house, he now is going back, and he's back into work. He's like, well, what am I going to do now, right? I wholeheartedly agree with the not following your passion piece. The practical translation might be, or at least my third myth that I would probably tack onto this as we're building these, is overbelief in idea and underbelief in execution.
Oh yeah, so true.
And so there's 2 elements to this. So one is that I think many people who are intimidated to start believe that they have to start the next Facebook, and the Zuckerbergs and the Bezos of the world are so incredibly rare. The vast majority of people who got into business have many failed businesses that led them to fail into success, right? And so one is that the idea has to be this big, amazing thing. And the second is that that the idea itself is the success, right? Because they'll share it with as many people as they can, and they almost scratch the itch of starting when you haven't done anything. Mm-hmm. I say there's basically 4 steps to starting a business. It's like, you have to get an LLC, you take the LLC to a bank, and then you get a bank account, and then you connect that bank account to a payment processor. And then you go ask a stranger if you can do something in exchange for money. And if you do all 4 of those things, you have a business. That's it, right? And so a lot of people like spend years being like, I'm going to start a business one day. It's like, you can do it tomorrow. You can literally do all of this tomorrow. Yeah. And then it's like, okay, well then how do I get the person to exchange money? It's like, well, you reach out to the people you know, right? You open your phone, you look at the 400 contacts you have there, you open up your Facebook profile, you have 300 friends, you look at those friends, and then you just say, hey, you send a personal video, you send a personal text and say, hey, I am starting this thing. This is what we're doing. This is what I'm solving. Do you know anybody? That's it. And so it's not even like you're asking your friends to buy something from you. What's interesting though is that 90% of the time, the person who responds is, oh, you could do that for me if you want. But that just gives you the easiest way that costs $0. And because we're all connected with the internet and phones, it's like the barrier to entry has never been lower than it is now. Yeah. It's just the problem is that the barrier to distraction is even lower.
What stood out to me there is the personal text, the video and the email. Yeah. And then the fact that you're asking your friends to introduce you to people who may want it, not asking them directly. That first part, the amount of emails I get, and I'm sure you get as well, of people pitching their services to you, but none of them are personalized.
Yeah.
Walk me through the difference of that personal video, because it's life-changing, like when it's done right.
So, I mean, these are your friends, or at least your contacts that you've met at some point in your life. And so trying to recall when you met that person, literally just stating their name and asking that it's, hey, I'm going to be doing this. And I would say consistency is the currency of credibility. So what people don't want to do is refer a friend to somebody who's fly by night. But if you can actually just demonstrate that, hey, he's still doing that, the likelihood that they're going to refer someone goes way up because the relational capital is not nearly at risk. Because if I'm going to introduce somebody to somebody else, I'm risking my social capital on the hope that the third party or whoever is sending this original text is actually going to do a good job. And so you can also include a little bit of risk reversal in that, which is like, hey, I'm doing the first 10 for free. And the reason I'm doing it is because I just want to get some testimonials, get some reviews, and also just so that I can learn too. And I think just being really upfront and being really honest about it makes the stakes feel a lot easier. And so then those first 10 people, you do exactly that. And the thing is that you're going to be better off than they will. For those who are like, I don't want to work for free. It's like, you're not working for free. You're learning and then you're earning. And so we got to go through the learn phase first. And the best way to do it is people who aren't direct connections of yours, maybe one step removed. And then at that point, they're going to give you very real feedback. And if you do a good job, then after a certain point, my goal is to get people to basically shift supply demand in their favor. Like I'd say the two laws of business that I am the most moved by are supply and demand, which is this X here, and then leverage. So that's a fulcrum for leverage. And so I see those are the two biggest forces in business. And so I want to create artificial demand for somebody who's starting out by just saying, we'll do a lot of stuff for free. And then what happens is when you have no more time to give, and if people still want you to do stuff, and you say, hey, I can't take any more people. If you want, you can pay. And people are like, yeah, that's fine. And then boom. And then you make your first sale. And you'll have confidence because you're like, well, I just did it 20 other times and look at the results from those people. And the first one you'll be embarrassed about. The 19th one, you're like, wow, you're going to have already paid down 60, 70% of all the mess ups that you were going to do. Yeah. And then at that point, you're going to start feeling good. And then from there, my way of doing it is you just keep bumping the price by 20% every 5 people until eventually people stop saying yes. And then after we're like, okay, this is the price I can do for now. And that's basically a very seamless transition into how do I go from nothing to making my first dollar?
How do you get over the block of, I don't want to work for free?
I actually think it's entitlement. I think it's believing that you deserve something for nothing. Like, to flip the roles in reverse, imagine somebody comes to you, they've never done anything ever in this particular space, and they say, hey, will you pay me to do this thing? Would you immediately, now maybe some people would be like, sure, then it's a charity thing, which is different, but would you be like, you know what, I really believe that this guy is the best person that I can get this problem solved from? Probably not. And so to carry some of that risk for yourself, you say, I'm gonna front this, but if you want to not do it for free, thing number one is that you're getting educated. So like you're getting free education, which I see as absolutely valuable. The second thing is that you can make terms that don't necessarily mean that it's free. Like there's the price and then there's the terms. The terms of the agreement can be, if you do this with me, you have to give me feedback throughout the entire process. And at the end, if I do a good job, you leave a review, right? And on 3 different formats, and leave me a video and leave me a text version of it. That's now absolute, like I'll say it differently. A business owner, they do illegally, and so therefore they're very willing to pay people to leave them testimonials. And so if you'd be willing to pay $500 to get an amazing testimonial, then they're basically, they've paid you that $500. But I promise you, those first 5-10 reviews will make you so much more than they could ever have paid you and not given you a testimonial. Yeah. So if we flip it and say, hey, would you rather get $1,000 from this person and have them not leave a review versus free and a glowing review? I promise you, you will make so much more from one glowing review than you will from the $1,000 long term. Yeah. So you're just building up the stockpile, the foundation to then build whatever you want to build on top of it.
Yeah, it's really strong advice. I hope everyone who's listening and watching right now is like going, this is what I'm going to do right now, like 10 hours for free, because that's where we're blocking ourselves. We don't have the experience, and therefore we don't feel comfortable selling more because we don't even know how the service will look, right? So you're trying to sell a service and maybe you sold one, but you haven't been through the full life cycle of what it feels like to deliver that service. Now you don't know how many website revisions or edits there's going to be. You don't know how many app updates they're going to be. You have no idea. And now you're actually less likely to go sell another one because you're scared that you don't even know if you can do it. And I feel under that entitlement is an insecurity of, I don't actually even know how to do this. Like I've got a lot of friends who are like really talented, really skilled. They actually would do a great job. But because they've never just done 10 clients for free, they don't know how it's going to be if they went and got 100 clients tomorrow. So they're scared of getting 100 clients, not because they're not capable, but because they haven't taken 10 clients through the process.
So I'm going to give you something super tactile for the audience.
Yeah, please.
Just 10 by 10. So give 10 people 10 hours. And so you can say, hey, I'm going to do 10 hours of work for free. That is a really compelling offer, and you're going to do it one-on-one and ideally with them. And so if you want to build the website, build it in front of them for the 10 hours so they can give you real-time feedback. If you want to,
You can build something very big in about 5 to 7 years, but most people spend those same years repeating the same 30 days over and over without real progress. Alex Hormozi always emphasizes that staying in discomfort is what creates the catalyst to learn how to get out of pain. Alex Hormozi, a serial entrepreneur and best-selling author, built a $100 million business portfolio and knows exactly how to guide people who want to achieve success. The first confusion Alex Hormozi identifies is sequence. Many people think making money comes from investing, when in fact investing is the last step, not the first. Alex Hormozi explains that before investing, you need to learn, gain experience, and generate active cash flow. Working for free is actually not working for free, but learning before earning, according to Alex Hormozi. A big myth Alex Hormozi points out is the idea that following your passion always leads to financial success. Often, the obvious things no one does are what truly generate results. Alex Hormozi states that everyone knows what they should do, but they fail because they do not execute the obvious consistently. Fear is the main emotion that prevents people from moving forward, and Alex Hormozi teaches that facing it is crucial. Alex Hormozi also highlights that understanding the right actions to achieve success is essential. You must know what to do and why. The first common mistake, according to Alex Hormozi, is believing that money comes from passive ways or risky bets. In reality, consistent active income is the path to wealth. Alex Hormozi explains that working intensely and generating high cash flow allows you to take calculated risks that can result in bigger gains. Many believe in getting rich quick, but Alex Hormozi warns that this is an illusion. Controlling variables is what really increases the chance of success. For Alex Hormozi, everything you do should generate value per unit of time, and this is the real measure of financial progress. He also emphasizes that nothing is completely passive. Investing requires analysis, study, and prior diligence. The myth of never selling your time is debunked by Alex Hormozi. Your hour has value, and this is how you scale earnings. Alex Hormozi proposes focusing on skills that generate income before investing time and money in speculative projects. There are 5 emotional stages every entrepreneur goes through, according to Alex Hormozi: uninformed optimism, informed pessimism, the value of despair, informed optimism, and finally achievement. Alex Hormozi explains that pain is necessary. Staying in the despair stage teaches the skills needed to move forward. Alex Hormozi teaches that persistence and continuous learning are more important than shortcuts or market fads like crypto or NFTs. Trying to do too many things at once prevents you from learning deeply and making enough mistakes to achieve success, according to Alex Hormozi. Alex Hormozi recommends starting by observing problems in your life, passions, professions, or personal pains, and from there building businesses that solve these needs. He notes that 78% of businesses in the US are service-based because they are easy to start and allow exchanging time for money with low risk. Alex Hormozi states that by creating a superior money model, you gain freedom to fail in other aspects of the business without compromising cash flow. According to Alex Hormozi, following passion doesn't necessarily mean making money from it. Often it's more efficient to separate passion and income. He also points out that passions change over time, and relying solely on them can be a strategic mistake. Alex Hormozi reminds us that life is an exchange of time for results, and you must choose how and where to invest that time intelligently. He emphasizes that becoming the person you want to be requires facing pain, learning patience, endurance, and judgment. Alex Hormozi reinforces that success is not just what you achieve, but who you become in the process. He warns that many people abandon goals early because they believe they must feel constant enjoyment along the way, which is a mistake. Alex Hormozi suggests focusing on building skills, learning, and consistency, not just immediate emotional satisfaction. He emphasizes that even those following their passion should balance it with activities that generate income, as he did early in his career as a consultant. Alex Hormozi states that by generating reliable income, you create opportunities to invest in what you love and expand your activities safely. Alex Hormozi also explains that a successful strategy involves proper sequencing, promotion, conversion, and delivery, and this simple logic is often ignored. He observes that many people try to solve all the world's problems, but starting by solving local and personal issues is more practical. Alex Hormozi reminds us that patience and tolerance for pain are essential to building any lasting enterprise. F